So I don't know what you guys know about Forewarn, but the amount of data that is in there is overwhelmingly complete a lot of times. So we're going to look at several ways you can search people and things you can do to try to find out a little bit more about your clients or potential clients before you start working with them. So let me share my screen. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware. Where's my share screen?
We're up.
Share
Right there.
screen. And I want to share that. Forewarn can be used as an app on your phone, and they've got very good apps on your phone. Oh, what is it? Okay, you see the screen, Erica and
Yeah.
Ray? Okay. It's a great app on your phone, either through Apple or Google, and I use it on my phone almost all the time. But it's the same login credentials to log in on the computer, which is why I'm doing it here, so we can all see it together. And this is offered free by the Board of Realtors. So if you've never downloaded it, if you've never activated it, or you've forgotten what your username and password is, you can call the Board of Realtors and they can help you figure out how to work it. The login credentials are the same for your phone or your online, and the website you would go to would be forewarn.com. Fairly simple. So once you're in Forewarn, the most common use of it is I got a text message from somebody and I don't know who they are. So I got a text message. I've been getting a rash of these lately. I don't know how I get them or what's going on, but I get this text message that starts out, "How are you?" And I reply, "I'm okay." And then I get, "Hi, I'm Olivia. Do we know each other?" And I said, "No." And they said, "Well, I was sorting out my contacts and found this group of phone numbers appeared on my phone. So I want to ask, do we know each other? I hope this doesn't bother you." And then we don't. I think I entered the wrong number. And then other times I get people who say, "Well, where do you live? Because I travel all over the United States," or I'm Olivia or Christine, and I'll be in Wichita, and so I always look up those numbers. I want to know who I'm talking to. So this number right now is 320-385. This one I got 2 days ago, 7162. And we are going to be grossly disappointed because it comes up with nothing. To me, this means somebody has a throwaway phone. This means somebody is emulating a number that's not theirs. Somebody's doing a random computer thing. And I've engaged with these folks before. They're generally Asian, like Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and they tell me that. They will occasionally have phone calls. And they never really get to a point other than it's like they're trying to talk to you.
All this call is coming from Asia.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know how to do that, but
I don't know either. But I just say this because I believe that if you look up a phone number like we just did, and it returns like this, you might want to be a little cautious about, do you want to meet them in the field? Do you want to meet them in a public place? Can you get some other ways to verify them and so on?
Yeah.
So
for me, the good thing always I do is when I receive calls out the state or something like that, I don't answer the call. If for me, if this is important, they let me a message. If no, I delete and report that call that
Gotcha.
It say with a message, because I have so many messages right now.
Right.
I don't know these people, or say, "Hey, hi, how are you?"
Well, there's so many
I
spam
delete and
Well, and this text message thing is a new one for me. I got the messages like you say, but now I'm getting text messages. So let's look up a phone number that we all should know. And that's our office phone number. Okay. Now, again, mostly they want to look up people here. But interestingly, Julie Westfall used to be an agent here a long time ago.
She's my
And-
customer, Gabriela.
You,
Oh,
you know some of
my-
these people?
Yeah, Gabriela is my customer. Julie
Oh.
is my customer.
And
Yeah.
so
Oh.
they have in some fashion been attached to our company phone number.
Wow.
So Julie used to be an agent here, and she went on just to work at a mortgage company. She
Hmm.
decided that was better for her. But either from a website or so I'm going to use her here for a moment, from a website or something else, they attached our phone number with Julie. So it tells me that she's probably living in an apartment. She's 38 years old. These are her phone records. And you can see that she listed her phone number as her residence, but she also has a mobile phone number and some other phones that you might be able to reach her from.
The first two are mine. Gabriela and Julia Piedra.
And so I'm going to let you look them up alone.
Yeah.
I don't want. You also see that you can pull up the aliases, which would give you various names. But if Julie called you and said, I want to work with you, well, then you might want to look up a couple of things. Let's see what kind of cars she drives. Are any of these still current? I don't know. And I don't know why the colors are somewhat unavailable. But if it says here, her latest car is a Vespa Sprint, whatever that is, and she pulls up in a Cadillac, I might want to be a little cautious when I'm getting out of the car.
How do you know which is the most current vehicle?
I am only looking at the year of car and thinking some of the older ones may not be. And I'm going to use my brother in a minute to give you some examples of that. I promise we're going to do a lot of things. Come on, computer, don't do this. You can look up her address history. And you can see that, she's at one time lived in New York. The last time that she showed up in New York, says she's lived on Seneca Street since August 21.
In New York.
In New York. And all of the various things. So she may not even live in town here anymore. But it goes back quite a ways on some addresses because of the amount of data they pull and all of the, like Experian and other kind of credit check things they do. So let me go back and let's get out of Julie altogether. And I'll let you look those guys up in a minute. But that's a phone number check. I think what people miss out quite a bit is, what is the search by name? So, and what if you were given a last name, first name, and they gave you a phone number, but the phone number doesn't show up? Well, I'm going to pull up my brother in here because he has an interesting background, Fox. And if it's too many people, it's going to say, oh, that's too many. You got to narrow it down. Okay. So I'm going to put in Kansas and search. Because he used to live here once upon a lifetime ago. Wow, computer, are you really going to slow down on everybody? Well, I know it's not Brian K. Fox, who's 81. His middle initial is K. And it's not Brian Keith Fox, who's 38. So I got to keep looking until I find my brother in here. There's Tacoma, Washington. He's not dead. There's my brother, Brian Keith Fox, age 60. Now, again, Brian Fox isn't really a complicated name, and looking up by names isn't always really good, but there are times when you know a name and you want to try to find somebody. So let's use my brother for an example. He has 3 phone records. Now, why does my brother have 3 phone records? It's because he does not believe in cell phones. He has one, and he had to get rid of his phone because it was so old it would no longer work on today's cell networks. So they made him buy a new phone. This phone record was my parents' phone number. And so when he lived with them, it comes up with them. This is his residential number. I'm sorry, this was his old residential number because he moved around a fair amount for his job. And this is his current. And you can see the last date it showed up was May 27th of 2023. So every month or so, they update things. It's fun looking up your relatives. Trust me.
Right.
My brother has no criminal records, and we'll look at that in a minute, but I wanted to show you his vehicles on purpose. He's got a Honda that's actually not his, and he is still driving his 96 Ford Explorer because, again, he's never updated his car. He put $6 grand in the front end of this car 3 years ago. Doesn't want to buy a new car.
He wouldn't know how to work the new car.
And this trailer,
I think he likes me.
yeah, really. This trailer, that's for his jet ski.
Oh.
So you can look at my brother and say, well, you know, he doesn't have a lot of cars to change from. Oh, I take that back. The Honda CR250 is a motorcycle. He's got a dirt bike.
Oh.
And he doesn't ride it anymore because he broke his arm. So those are his 3 vehicle records. And I can look at that and I say, well, those are pretty complete. Let's look at his addresses. Well, he currently lives on Stetson Drive, 2001 to current. This address that shows up in 2014 was my parents' address before they died. So he's still got mail there. Irving, Texas was before he bought his house in Keller, Texas. He worked in North Carolina. He worked in New Orleans. I have no idea what this Mulberry, Kansas is. He lived in an apartment in Wichita. And 4810 Harding is the house that we grew up in our youth, which my parents sold back in '87. So you can see how complete the information can really get on this stuff. And that's why I encourage you guys not only to look up phone numbers, because my brother, I could have, but to look up names and see what kind of information is really in there. Are there any questions so far? Because
No.
we're going to delve a little deeper in this. Okay. So a few years ago, I met a gentleman, and I use that term loosely, who caused us some heartache in here. And to share with you the kind of stuff you can find out on somebody that may be really hurting you. Let me go back for a second on purpose. If I get rid of the Kansas and I look up J.D. Oliver, there aren't so many in the United States that it will pull up a list. And you can see all of the things that you go through down here. And I'm going to get down to J.D. Oliver that lives in Wichita. Have I passed it yet?
No.
Here it is. And even though we call him JD, it's Jeremy Daniel. Okay, that's about the right age. Let's go look and see if this is our critter. Well, and it is. JD Oliver, age 43, lives here, and he's got a few criminal things that we're going to look at in a minute. We can also look up his address history. Well, he lived there. He lived on Caldwell, Kansas, Maryland, Oklahoma, Topeka, and so on. Tracy might know some of these addresses for JD's dad. I don't, because he had to live with his dad at one point.
Yeah, I don't know what his address was.
But when we look up JD and we start saying, well, is this the right guy? I know about his criminal. I could look up his vehicles, but you guys have seen how that works. Let's look up his 35 criminal.
Jeez.
So it goes into traffic. This is Oklahoma. Failed to wear a seatbelt properly. Failed to wear a seatbelt properly. And sometimes they're duplicated here.
Mhm.
But you look at the match key, first name, last name, initials, birth date, that matched up, city, state. Okay, so that's probably a pretty good match. We keep going. Same thing, failure to wear a seatbelt. Here we get to one which matches everything, possession of controlled substance.
Oops.
We don't know what it was, but we can say that in 2015 in Oklahoma, he had possession. And we look and he still has that. Oops. This is the same date, but different charges.
Mhm.
All matches up. Obscene material to publish or distribute or participate in Oklahoma. We keep going down. Same thing, but they've changed birth dates. Possession of our controlled substances, obscene material, controlled, failure to comply with compulsory insurance requirements. That matches up. And so I would look at some of these and say, well, insurance, I might not have had my insurance card with me. I might not have been wearing my seatbelt. But I want to look at all of these to see what kind of critter I'm getting ready to deal with here. And we're going to keep scrolling because some of them are a little bit more.
He was really busy in Oklahoma.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's because where he lived. Felony,
Wow.
soliciting a sexual conduct or communication with a minor. I can
Nice,
tell you why it was dismissed. But
Nice
we
guy.
won't-
nice guy.
Nice guy. I can tell you why all these were dismissed because he entered
my.
into a plea agreement. But you can still see, even being charged with, I might want to do more investigation or be a little cautious about going around this guy. Does everybody understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Now, to tell you the backstory and why I know this, Channel 10 did a reveal on this person because he was running a BMX bike track down south in Wichita, working with minors. And they ran this story that the parents were getting very upset, and he got dismissed from that job because when he was in Oklahoma, he was a practicing attorney. And he was charged with propositioning youth through a mother that if I can have sex with your children, I'll lower your bill.
Wow.
And so the plea agreement that he reached was, we'll dismiss the charges, but you have to surrender your license to practice law.
What a sleazeball.
Wow.
And so we don't need to go into any other specifics. It's more of, from these kind of reports, you could then go in and look up what the charges actually were or so on, if you were that interested, or you could just say, no, I'm not interested in dealing with this person. Property records, well, you can see where they lived and if they sold and how much they sold for. So to give you a good idea, what if you're dealing with somebody that had said they just sold a $700,000 house in California and they're moving here, or they sold it 3 years ago, because it may take some time to get into this. You can look up somebody's previous price homes and kind of see where they were. So let's go back to, you saw the list of my brother, but he didn't own any homes. Let's go back to my other brother then. New search. H-E-R-Y. Because my other brother's lived around a little bit, but he's owned property in a couple of states. Oops, I don't know why that showed up, but I don't want it. Go down. There we go.
Now I just sent you.
Oh gosh. Now I gotta log in again. Oh no. That is Edge.
There we go.
So Henry King Fox is my brother. Now you see these other Henry Foxes in here. You could also show up if somebody's phone number shows up and it says they're deceased. You might want to question if they're using the name or so on. But let's look at my brother for a minute. So Henry has 4 phone records: a mobile, a residence in the right area code, a residence not in the right area code, and another residence. So Henry, when mobile phones came out, was living in California. That's the area code. He had residential and his mobile phone. Because he's a furniture salesman, he kept his cell phone with the same number so people could keep getting track of it. So now I can look up and say, well, this is actually probably Henry Fox. Let's go back. Let's look up some property records. I can tell you these are mostly traffic, but we don't need to worry about them. Address history. Well, again, he's lived here for a long time, since 2000. He lived in Anaheim, California, and Placenta. He actually lived in Austin, Texas for a while when he was first getting started. That's where he lived, but not property he owned, because a lot of those were apartments.
So that's where you go to property records?
Right. And so if you look at his property records, he has 2. He owned a home in Portofino that he sold. I don't know why it says sell date of 21 unless somebody else has bought it since, but it has been a property he had owned once upon a time. And this is his house in Overland Park that he bought in 85. Now this sell date's because when he refinanced it and got a loan on his house. But I can see he actually lives there, and it's got some sell price information. The reason it says unavailable is because he refinanced his home, took the money, and so it wasn't really a sell. But you can start putting things together. Cars, oh, Henry likes to trade. Where my other brother will drive the same car forever. About every 2 or 3 years, Henry gets a new car. So currently he's driving the 19 Expedition. I remember when he started driving Volvos, and then he decided he couldn't afford Volvos anymore, so he started getting Fords. So I guess my takeaway from all of this 30 minutes or so that we've been here is it's real easy to search by phone numbers.
Mhm.
If you've got a name but you don't have a phone number, go ahead and use that name search.
I need to always go for Forewarn.
Forewarn.com,
And this is
free from the
Free-
Board of
free app?
Realtors. Yes.
okay.
You have to have a login. The Board of Realtors can supply you. So you don't have to pay it, but you're going to have to figure out how to register with it. So you'll have to call down there and ask. Everything we did up here, you can do on your phone just as easy. I'm only doing it up here so you can see it easier.
Okay.
Cece had one that I thought was kind of interesting. She has an address and a name, but nobody knows how to get in contact with the homeowner. So you could put in here a name, the city. I didn't put the city in any of these, but you could narrow it down and then start searching and find out if you get a name that matches it, and then go in there and look at property records till you find this person. Then you'll end up with a phone number because it gives you phone numbers, or you can get a mailing address of where they live now. So there's a variety of tools at your disposal to help you not only remain safe, but to do research on your clients and find out about their property records, if they refinance their house. If you don't know where they live currently, this guy was a trustee for a trust. And so that's what they're trying to locate, is the trustee.
This would be good for FSBOs that you see
For sale by owners.
and you want to get in touch with the actual owner,
But
a parcel search may not always.
but you got to have the owner's name, which you can get out of the tax records.
Right.
Okay.
But if it's an LLC,
Then you have to go to the Secretary of State and look at who the resident agent is,
well, that's a pain.
because there's no way to put in just a full address here. You've got to have a name and a city and state. I can't put in an
Mm,
address.
Mhm.
So I'm going to ask if you guys have any questions online.
I know there's a Forewarn link on the main MLS page when we log in.
Uh-huh.
So, if Tulio doesn't have a login, he might start there. Because I think that's where I went when I first signed up for it. SDK, RSDK may already have it kind of set up
Well,
through that.
I tried that a little bit just before I started it, and the link is there, but it doesn't have single sign-on capabilities. So it just takes you to a login page. At least it did for me. Now that may be because I signed up previously and already had an account and so on. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you're correct. There is a link there on the dashboard that will take you there.
Yeah, I wasn't sure because I get the login page too, but I wasn't sure if I'm getting that page because I'm already signed up and I've logged in before, but at least that might be a place to start.
I did call down to the board today and ask, and they said if when they first signed up, they sent everybody an email to log in. But if you didn't do that, then they'll have to work with you to resend the email or recover your
Mhm.
credentials. And every time I log in, it wants to send me a text message as an additional layer of security because of how much information is behind this wall. They don't want that to become public.
Oh, mine doesn't do that. Mine just
Oh.
let me log in.
Well, mine does on my phone. It doesn't online.
Okay, maybe that's it because
And
I
on
did
my-
it from my phone, so it's already recognizing that it's my phone.
Right, exactly. And I set mine up so my credentials are saved on my phone with my fingerprint. So they don't want everybody to do this. But I'm going to stop recording then if there's no other comments or questions.
Nothing here, Greg. Thank you.
Okay.